Hello everybody, my name is Pixie People. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel if you're new. And today, we're going to do What If Deku had the 10 Shadows technique from Jujutsu Kaisen. And let's just, enough talk, let's get into the what if. So we start our story with Deku at 4 years old, turning 5. And that's usually when the doctors told him that he'd unlock his quirk. So, he's excited to know what his quirk is, hoping he has one. But he just expects to have one. Anyways, we cut to Deku sitting on a couch, watching TV. And Chile sees a dog, thinking he really wants one. And that thought becomes reality when a portal opens up and shows a dog climbing out of it. It's a black and white dog wagging its tail. It jumps up onto Deku's lap and just lays there, with Deku giddy because one, he got a dog, and two, he's quirk unlocked. But he controls himself and just pets the dog and naps, with Inko waking him up, asking Deku if this is his quirk, with Deku exclaiming yes. And Deku hugs his mom, with Inko hugging him back with a big squeeze, with the dog stuck between. Anyways, when Deku's about to go to sleep, the dog jumps right back into the portal, with Deku feeling sad, but he thinks he can just summon him again, which he can, proving that the next day. But let's just do a little montage of Deku unlocking his shadows, I guess. He unlocks the bird one next when he's trying to grab a snack from the top of the fridge, with the bird being unlocked, with it flying up and grabbing it for Deku, with Deku hugging the bird, with the bird just chilling there. Excited because Deku got another thing that wasn't just a dog. And the next time, he purposely makes this one, he tries to summon a snake, because those sound cool. And the snake burst out as pretty medium-sized snake, and slithers onto Deku's arm and just chills there, with Deku looking at the snake, realizing the snake is super ultra elongated, like even for a snake. And the snake, seeing Deku this uncomfortable, he slithers off and goes back into the portal. And that's how Deku met the snake. Which this also makes Deku test if the bird and the dog have any techniques, with the dog being able to transform into a fighting form, with the bird basically shooting electricity off it. It's basically, I guess, friction, I guess. It's basically a friction bird. Forgot to mention the bird has the weird mask that the original bird had from the Jujutsu Kaisen series. Anyways, let's continue. Deku then meets a tiger. This is also in Megumi's arsenal, we just never got to see him. And this animal, as ability, is able to just stop other quirks. The way Deku learned this is because the tiger was irritated because Inko was spritzing with a bottle because it tried to get Deku food. And so the cat roared at Inko, which made her quirk all fuzz up and drop the bottle she was holding with her telekinesis. Remember, this is Inko when she could still use her quirk really effectively. Yeah. And then we see Deku summon a deer when he's sick, and the deer heals him. We see, because that's also an arsenal, we see Deku summon toads that basically help Deku with, he purposely summoned these guys because he thought frogs would be cool. He likes reptiles. And then Deku summons a little cow, with Deku, then realizing it's an ox pretty quickly. Yeah, that's all. That's Deku's lineup for this series. Yes, he'll get Magaraga eventually, but not yet. So, yeah, that's Deku's arsenal for now. So, we just see Deku get to his 5-year birthday with all those animals around him. And then they all blow it out together. All the animals in him. So Deku's 5 years old now, and we see him go to school, meeting Bakugo Katsu, with Bakugo saying his quirk pretty cool. Not compared to his quirk with him shooting up explosions. With Deku saying that is awesome, and he wants to show Bakugo more of his quirk later. They're on recess at this time, and Deku just summoned his dog to play with him. And later that day, Inko and Mitsuki, being old school friends, see that their children are becoming good friends. So they set up a playdate with Deku, then showing Bakugo the whole quirk, with Bakugo being ecstatic to see Deku with such a cool quirk. Animals that have any just separate abilities is so cool. And this friendship lasts for all the way up until middle school. By all the way up until middle school, they're still friends in middle school. And yeah, it's a simple little time skip for us. So we see the teacher during the whole speech how he knows everyone wants to be heroes, and Deku and Bakugo, of course, want to be. And they're both going to go to UA because they're best pals. They're going to go to the same school and become best pals still. Anyways, let's continue. Deku, after school, walks with Bakugo back to his house first, because they planned on training together for the 10-month training arc. Inko already knew about this, by the way. And, of course, he doesn't just train there the whole 10 months, but yeah. But Bakugo and Deku train their quirks up to their peak for right now, and after the 10 months are over, the UA thing starts. With Bakugo and Deku saying to both each other, whoever gets first is better than the other. With Bakugo saying he's clearly going to win because his quirk is just cooler. It's better than Deku's, but Deku begs to differ. Anyways, we see Deku walk into UA and meet Ochako Urawa. They talk for a second, Deku still being awkward considering he's still Deku, an awkward kid around girls. But after they're done meeting, Deku takes the thing. Doesn't gush as much as he does in the original, to the point where Ida doesn't call him out on it. But they take the quiz peacefully. Deku gets a B+. He's not that intelligent. But, yeah. Then they get to the robot thing, with Deku doing the same thing he did in the original, trying to go talk to Ochako. But Ida stopping him, telling him that he's trying to disrupt the competition, with Deku about to explain that he didn't mean it like that, until Prison Mike shoots over his trying to explain and says, "What are y'all doing? Heroes don't wait around. Go, go, go!" And then he opened the gates and they all rushed, with Deku immediately summoning a portal, making Niji. I think that's how you pronounce it. Nuji? Haven't watched the series in a minute. Don't know how to pronounce the bird's name. But he summons the bird, and the bird clasps onto Deku's hands, and they fly over to the birds. The robots. So they fly over the crowd so Deku doesn't get trampled. And then Deku lands, doing like a roll, and then summons his ox to do a bit of a bulldoze. So the ox slams into the ground, pulling up a slab and pushing that slab like a bulldozer. So then it just destroys like 3 robots in a row. They were all 3-pointers. So 9 points for Deku. Then Deku summons his bird. The bird's still summoned. Then it shoots out electricity to and then flies around like 6 robots. They're pretty low points, 1 and 2s, and they all get short circuit and drop. Then the bird comes back with Deku desummoning the Ox, with the bird pulling Deku into a different area, with Deku landing onto a building, summoning the tiger, and the tiger lands and roars at the top of its lungs to cancel out every single quirk person in that vicinity, which was around 4. So Deku could take all the things. So Deku then summoned his snake thing, which just flew around, destroying all of them with basically its body weight. By the way, it's gotten significantly bigger than it was when Deku was 5. It's basically the size of it was in the anime when it fought Sukuna. So after all the things get destroyed, Deku takes a break and actually desummons most of his animals and summons the bunnies just to go get more points for him while he rests. So the bunnies multiply and basically make a tsunami of bunnies, and they destroy a couple of robots for Deku, with Deku basically impressing the hero teachers immediately, considering how easy he was able to just tear through all these robots easy, and able to improvise in situations where he really wasn't that skilled in, which was taking out multiple things, which was speed, because they knew that if Deku didn't do the whole tiger roar thing, whatever that thing does, he wouldn't have gotten it. With Aiwa piquing interest in Deku, considering he definitely saw the tiger just cancel out all their quirks. Anyways, we see Deku jump off that building and desummon the rabbits, with him summoning his dog again and it transforming immediately into its boxing form, basically. It was a slang. It meant to say fighting form. And we just see Deku take out some robots with the tiger. Oh, meant the wolf. And eventually Deku looks over to see the 0-pointer, and he's about to run away, considering it's a 0-pointer, until he sees Ochako, the girl he was just talking to, trapped under rubble. And him not wanting to risk the fact that teachers might not have seen her, he summons his bird up, and they fly right into the air. And yes, Fujitoro can summon... Megumi can summon stuff in the air. It's not just in the ground. So he summons his snake to wrap around the 0-pointer, all around it, considering I think the snake used to elongate in the series. Megumi got cut from the series for being overpowered. So the snake wraps around all around the 0-pointer, completely locking it in place, with Deku then summoning the elephant. He got this animal over the 10 months with training with Bakugo, with Deku annoyed because Bakugo was running around all the place, and Deku not being able to block him. So he summoned the elephant on reflex to blast Bakugo, with it shooting water at first, but Deku realizing it's basically just a mass of weight. So he summons the elephant, with the snake then sliding into a portal, and the elephant slams into the 0-pointer, crushing its head, really. And then when it tips over, then the elephant jumps through a portal. Then the bird flies Deku over to Ochako, with him taking off the rubble by himself, with the bird flying into the thing, with Deku realizing there's basically no time left. So he pulls Deku out of the thing and Ochako out of the thing, and walks over to Recovery Girl, who's running up on the scene. After Deku puts down Ochako and lets her get healed, Ochako thanks Deku, with Deku saying it's no problem. But, yep. that's where the thing ends. And of course, Deku got in. There's no way he didn't get in. There were too many teachers that were interest peaked in that when Deku was fighting, and he got really high. But I will say, Bakugo still wins because Baku is able to do more and faster without having to tactically think. He can just send out an explosion, and that takes out like 3. Baku got first, with Deku getting second. With Baku gloating at Deku when they get back. When they get their letters, with Baku texting Deku and telling him that he got first, with Deku saying he got second. Which Baku is saying that second doesn't mean anything. With Deku saying it means a lot, actually. Baku's saying he doesn't care. Well, a few days later, they go to school, with Bakugo and Deku linking back up and sitting next to each other, with Ochako then talking to Deku more on how she's really grateful. But, yeah. Then Aizawa shows up and tells them to pipe down. So they all pipe down, and Aizawa explains that they're going to do a little training thing. But then Ochako says, don't they have orientation? Now it says, heroes don't have time for that trivial stuff. They need to train immediately. But, yeah. But Aizawa then brings them out to the yard where they're all in their outfits, with him telling them they're going to throw a ball. With him pointing to Bakugo, saying he's first. And then Deku is. And then the third person and he says that we didn't get the third person who isn't third. So Bakugo steps up, gets the ball, and sends it to where he threw it in the original. With Deku then stepping up, because that's who we care about, with Deku giving it to the bird. With then the bird flying really far away. Just enough to where he beats Bakugo's ball by a millimeter. By putting the ball in front of the other ball. With Bakugo saying, petty. What? And Bakugo says nothing. Anyways, Deku walks back, and Ochako shows up next, and then gets an infinite, and then Deku's jaw drops, with Bakugo's also dropping. Well, really all of Class 1A's drops. Anyways, let's just say Deku gets pretty average scores, really. Because I think most of the training thing were really only required physical strength. Anyways, we see Deku getting at least 5th place because of that ball throw. Yeah. As always says, good job everyone. Considering no one said, this looks fun. Because Deku cheated, kind of. And everyone got annoyed. But, so that kept everyone from saying, this looks fun. So after the school day, Bakugo and Deku walk with each other. Until Bakugo sees his house and says bye to Deku. As you can see, Deku and Bakugo are pretty tight. And oh yeah, I forgot to mention Ida apologized for his actions about the whole saying that he was distracting Ochako. But Deku said he didn't care. Yeah. Next day, All Might appears, with everyone shocked out of their dang minds. No one saw this coming. So All Might then explains that their new hero teacher, and he's going to teach them intense situations that they'll need to know in the future. And today they're going to do heroes versus villains. So he says to go get their hero outfits that they designed later ago. And you know what? I think Deku just wants to go with something simple. So he goes for like a black jumpsuit. And the jumpsuit has pockets, of course, to like show like some medical supplies and stuff. and he has black gloves on and, let's say, a black mask. Kind of full body ninja, really. Let's say like um, a mask that covers his top of his head. Just think Iron Fist, but with holes. So that's what Deku's wearing. Basically just Iron Fist, but black clothes. And then we'll say he has a black fur coat around his neck. Anyways, that's Deku's outfit. Okay. So we see Deku's outfit, and it's pretty cool, with Ochako showing off hers, with Deku doing the same reaction he did in the original. Anyways, they do like the ball spin, and then they get their teams with its Deku being Ochako, with Deku and Ochako, with Ida versus and Bakugo as the villains. So Deku says he immediately knows what Bakugo wants to do, because that's what he wants to do. And Ochako says what? Fight each other. And so when the timer starts, bell rings or something, whatever, they get into the building, go to at least to the second floor, and see Bakugo, with Bakugo signaling to Ochako to move past him. And Ochako walks past, and Deku and Bakugo get into their stances. And they basically stare down at each other until Ochako gets to the third floor. And so the battle begins with Deku throwing out the snake, trying to grab Bakugo. But Bakugo blows out the way and shoots around the snake to shoot at Deku. But the I think the ox blocks the explosion and then sends a headbutt towards Bakugo, which actually connects, shooting him back into a thing. But Bakugo shoots a huge amount of explosives at Deku, which hits all of them. He hit this time because the ox was distracted. So after getting hit with these, Deku summons his snake and ox back and summon out his dog to basically beat up Bakugo, with Bakugo exploding forward to fight him. Him dodging a swipe from the wolf, with Deku then gut-checking him with his knee. Bakugo backing up in pain, with the dog grabbing Bakugo in like a Nelson kind of, basically holding his arms, keeping him up. With Deku then swinging on Bakugo in the stomach, with it Bakugo basically blowing himself up like a flash grenade. Not like actually, you know what I mean. No, you don't. He blows himself up, sending both the dog and Deku back. The dog being sent back so far to where Bakugo gets some hits in on Deku. With then Deku punching Bakugo back and summing out his elephant again, grabbing Bakugo in the nose, I guess. Trunk? Yeah, in the trunk, and then slamming it up 2 floors onto the 4th floor, where Deku then makes the elephant throw him up there. And then Deku summoned out the bird to grab Bakugo and send him out the dang window. And that's not where the thing ends. The snake then shows up, grabs Bakugo out of the bird's hands, and then slams him through the building, slamming him from the top all the way back to the 4th floor. This actually going through to where Ida and Ochako were fighting, which gave Ochako the advantage. And this slams Bakugo back into the 4th thing, which makes the bird fly back from where it just was and shoot Bakugo with the electric explosion. And then Deku clotheslines Bakugo, spinning him in the air. Then he summons his ox, which the snake disappears, if you're realizing Deku can only summon 2 at a time. Then the ox slams Bakugo and drags him to the concrete. And eventually, Bakugo gets tired and goes unconscious. But then Deku desummons all of his things, hearing the thing ring saying heroes win, with Ochako being able to touch the bomb after that whole snake incident. Anyways, Deku wins, and Baku's annoyed, unconscious. But Deku then heals all of Baku's superficial wounds. So he's still unconscious, but he's like healed. And then the deer goes away. Also, so you don't think of this, the deer can only be summoned once a day. Or actually, once every 3 hours. So then now it's on a 3 hour timer. So it's not unfair like it was in the healing court Deku. That's the one I did before this. After the fight, Baku wakes up in in the recovery room with Deku sitting in one of the chairs, seeing if Baku's right. With Baku thumbsing up to Deku and Deku grinning in acceptance, I guess. Anyways, Baku then leaves the recovery room with Deku, and they basically chill with each other. And then when they get back to class, Aizawa explains that they're going to go to the USJ the next week, so get their permission slips signed. So they all grab their permission slip, go home, get all of them signed, and then the next week they go to the USJ. And they're all on the bus when, of course, the topic of who has the strongest quirk happens, with everyone saying that it could be Bakugo's, but people say that Deku is better at using his quirk compared to Baku. Baku, being a bit more mellowed out, but not too mellowed out, says that Deku, I only lost because Deku has been training with me his whole life. With Deku saying the same. Well, except he says, I would have lost if Baku had trained as hard as I did. Baku then getting annoyed, but he brushes it off. Sorry about that. Yeah. After they just settled that conversation, and luckily they get to the USJ after that, because it's pretty quickly. So they go in and are excited to learn when they're still excited to learn, of course, when Ochako's favorite hero shows up. I don't know her name. In the comment section, tell me her name, please. I have no idea. Anyways, after Ochako's done gushing, and after the Ochako's favorite hero is done explaining how quirks can be dangerous, a portal opens up to reveal Shigaraki and all of the guest villains, with Aizawa immediately jumping into action. And he fights them until Kurogiri shows him into Class 1A. And I don't think Deku really does anything here. And Baku and Kirishima do the same thing they did in the original, and all the Class 1A gets teleported. With Deku then summoning the bird to catch him, and he catches both Mineta and Tsuyu. They land on the boat with the bird, realizing there's about the villains in there, diving in on its own intuition. And then it electrocutes the entire water, making all the villains unconscious. Well, it does like a few loops and stuff to charge up the electricity, and then it dives and then shoots it out. Then it comes out of the water and dries itself off after landing. Deku saying thank you and pets her, because I know its gender. So it flies back into the black ink. Then Deku, knowing that the water's fine, considering she's gone now, her powers are tied to her being there or not. So they jump into the water, and Tsuyu flies them, basically. Swims over to where they were in the original. I don't know what it's really called. I don't know, shore. where they see Aizawa getting his face beaten in by the Nomu, with Deku then getting out of the water in annoyance and enraged. So then he summons out his elephant and ox. The elephant on top of the Nomu, while the ox is charging up in its bulldoze attack. A lot bigger than it is than he did use. So when the elephant lands on the Nomu catches it and throws it off him. And the elephant disappears while the toads show up, grabbing Aizawa and putting him in the toad. And then the toad jumps back up to the thing and spits him out. And then going back into the black hole. The black ink, I don't know. Then the attack finally lands on the Nomu, with the Nomu actually being held back, until it plants its feet and then grabs the ox by its calves and then chest, and then tears it into an inky blackness. Then it, turns into ink over the Nomu, but it just bubbles off. With then the tiger showing back up and roaring, with the Nomu actually stopping completely. And the tiger, by the way, has to constantly roar for this effect to happen. Luckily it has big lung capacity. So Deku decides he's going to hit it with basically everything he's got. So the snake shows up, smacking it like a buttload of times, then shooting it into the air. Then the bird shows up, charging up really quickly, also hitting the Nomu, then hits it with the electricity attack, shooting it down. Then those both go back into inky black, where the ox shows back up, and then just basically charges the Nomu, impaling it and shooting it up. Where the toads are waiting to whip the shite out of him, and then they throw him to the ground. Then the wolf's down to catch it where it's in its monster form, and then it just ultra slashes the crap out of the Nomu. Then it actually tears off one of the Nomu's arms with its teeth. And then its foot. Then after the tiger is done roaring, it goes back into Ziggy Blackness, with Deku being absolutely exhausted, with the Nomu basically looking very dead to Deku. But the Nomu starts regenerating, with Deku fearing for his life after this, with Shigaraki cackling like a old-timey villain. And then Deku scared until All Might blocks the punch that the Nomu was charging right at him with. Then Deku parries. Then All Might punishes the Nomu by punching it in the gut, pushing it back. And of course tanking it, because it's basically encountered All Might. And so All Might, and by the way, the only reason Deku was hurting the Nomu was because of the whole canceling out the quirks, so no shock absorption. With Deku then seeing that All Might's punches are just bouncing off the Nomu, with Deku remembering that he could use his tiger again. But before he can, Shigaraki goes charging at him, enraged because, he didn't die. But Deku summons his snake to headbutt him away from him. Then Shigaraki gets his ass kicked by the snake, with Shigaraki touching the snake and it disintegrating into ink. With Shigaraki being far away from Deku summons the tiger and it roars. So All Might doesn't have to, send out all his strength. He can just punch the Nomu as hard as he wants. So the Nomu gets its ass kicked and then sent into space. And then it loses like it did in the original, but with All Might being significantly less tired. Before, of course, the Nomu gets yeeted out of space, Shigaraki and Koryu leave, with Shigaraki being irritated. So Deku puts his fist up, puts his fist to his chest and says his line, "Back in the day, that would have taken just one punch." We continue our story after Deku has just helped All Might take out the Nomu with his tiger that can cancel quirks instead of, cursed energy. But yeah, we just see Deku go home after that. He was really fine. He didn't take any significant damage. So he was just tired. But yeah, Deku goes home and just, waits the whole week that they had off. And then they come back for another week, and Aizawa explains the USJ. And yeah, Deku just trains with Bakugo to get stronger. And they're both wanting to win. That's really it. Anyways, we get to the racing part, and Deku already has a plan here. He's going to use the bird. And yeah, he immediately summons the bird and starts flying. And yeah, Deku just flies over there. We'll say eventually he sees Todoroki just shooting ahead of him, so he just drops the bird down and then summons his ox. So he lands on the ox, and the ox starts running. And the ox basically outspeeds Todoroki. So Todoroki tries to ice the ox, but the ox just stomps the ground, disrupting the ice so it doesn't hit the ox. And eventually, when they get to the explosive level, the ox just slams its head to the ground, just bulldozes the mines. But when people try to take the path, Deku uses the bird to lay the mines back out, so he can't be followed. But that doesn't matter for either Todoroki or Bakugo, because they just use how they'd use in the original, where Bakugo would shoot over the explosion, over the mines, and Todoroki would just use his ice to speed skate. Yeah, but Deku still gets first because his ox is just faster than both Todoroki and Bakugo. So the ox clears it with Deku on him. Well, the ox runs over and then tosses Deku through the front. Deku gets first because of his ox and his bird. Then he gets his 10 million points. Where's the 10,000? Can't really know. But 10 million points, and I'd say Bakugo and Ochako team up with Deku. And then I think Kirishima would team up with them because him and Bakugo have gotten close. Then, yeah, basically Deku just uses his summons to keep people off him. It's not really entertaining to just explain that Deku summons this and then the summon beats the crap out of him. I'll try. But yeah, Deku just summons the snake, and the snake just whips them all off the team. And Bakugo, being the person on top this time, actually goes out to get more things. And it actually works out pretty well, because Deku uses his animals to help Bakugo with this. Mostly using the tiger to both attack and roar to keep their quirks cancelled. And yep, Bakugo just gets more points, and they just continue to the next round. This will start talking more. Okay, so Deku, going in, knows that Shinso has a mind control quirk because of how the tail guy explained it. There's no way this guy doesn't have a mind control quirk, because Ojiro legit explained how Shinso's quirk is basically just mind control. So Deku plans to just finish this quickly. So then he summons his dog, and the dog runs over to Shinso. Shinso doesn't know how to react, so he just gets punched out of the ring instantly. Or slashed, because it's a dog that can fight. And so the Shinzo gets out of bounds. And Deku watches the fights of um, Todoroki eviscerating Shinzo, Sero, basically. And then, yeah, he just watches the fights. He doesn't go out and talk to Endeavor this time. He just sits there. He doesn't have any actual harm that happened to him. He's just chill. So then Baku gets to the then we get to the Deku versus Todoroki fight, and Deku then opens, summons the ox to slam some ground into bulldoze towards Todoroki. But Todoroki just straight up sends out a giant ice thing that catches the ox into it, and then the ox just summons because it feels low, it's just stuck. So then Deku summons his bird, which charges up electricity and goes for Todoroki. But Todoroki just sends up a wall, so the bird just hits a wall. And then Todoroki does like a sliding move over to Deku. Basically, I think Sub-Zero's sliding move from MK9. So he slides Deku over his head, and then Deku gets his leg grabbed and frozen over slightly, and thrown almost out of the ring. But of course he summons the bird again, and it grabs him out of the... Actually, no. He summons the dog this time to catch him and push him back out. But since the dog doesn't count as Deku's body, the dog can go out of bounds. So it just runs out of bounds, so Todoroki can't get to it, and runs to Todoroki. But Todoroki tries to ice it before it gets to him, but the dog just jumps over, and Todoroki and says a glacier, but the dog just spins, slashed through it. But then Todoroki goes straight for Deku, and the dog has to panic in front of it to get frozen. And then the dog, summons, because can't help. What sucks for Deku is his energy is getting low, so he can't summon as many things. So he sends out his snake and the bird again, because the bird's cooldown is off. And so the bird and the snake basically do the combo they did on Sukuna, but Todoroki just ices the snake and destroys it. And the bird doesn't land the attack because Todoroki's already falling. Actually, no, the bird hits it and slams Todoroki into the ground. And Todoroki, already being really cold, he just pummels it with a big ice shard. And then Deku's getting a bit confident considering he sees Todoroki's state. He's freezing over and he's not able to use his quirk. Mind you, Deku in this timeline doesn't really want to help Todoroki with his issues. But, yeah. But Todoroki just uses his father's quirk to remove the ice. Because technically, he's not using his quirk. He's using basically a warmer. Yeah, it doesn't matter. So then Deku gets a bit worried until he remembers his trump card. So he summons the tiger immediately, but Todoroki knows the tiger, so he tries to ice it immediately, but the tiger is already roaring, which just stops Todoroki's ice and just disintegrates it really. But Todoroki, seeing this, just rushes Deku, knowing he has basically no summons left. And he just starts wailing on Deku, let's be honest here. Deku has no actual fighting experience, because he usually lets the summons fight for him, and he doesn't really know. He just really knows how to throw a good punch. And the summons usually confirm the punch for him, but he doesn't know how to throw it. So Deku starts getting his ass kicked, until the tiger stops roaring for a split second to stop Todoroki from throwing Deku out of the ring by biting his arm, the ice arm, but that just gets Todoroki to ice it and then smash it against Deku. And then he's about to ice Deku out of the ring, but Deku jumps for Todoroki's um, other side, the fire side, because it's safe that direction. So he jumps for it, and Todoroki can't hit him from that side. So Deku starts punching over at the fire side. But of course Todoroki's just gonna let Deku do that, so he just shoots him back, Deku back, freezing half of his body, but he just smashes it off. And then Deku, feeling like basically over, Deku summons the elephant and tries to shoot water at Todoroki, but Todoroki shoots ice in front of him to block it. But the elephant just charges through it and slams through it. And this gives Todoroki a bit of trouble because it's a super enhanced elephant. So it starts beating Todoroki up, but Todoroki just ices it over again and destroys it. And throws the trunk part of the icicles at Deku. Deku dodges it, and Deku's starting to get really fatigued. But Todoroki's perfectly fine right now. But he's iced slightly. But Deku then summons the deer summon, and he brings him back to full stamina. And that's the last time he's going to be able to use this. So he's really just planning on taking out Todoroki. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Then Deku summons all of the guys back. This basically puts him right back to where he was just at. He's out of stamina completely. So the elephant, the snake, the bird, the dog, the tiger, and what was it? Oh, the toad shows up. And that actually grabs Deku and keeps him safe. So Todoroki has to go through Deku's entire rogue gallery. So he just goes in there, actually fighting them pretty well until they start working together. At first they were just jumping in by themselves, but then they started jumping together. And of course they're really good at it, so Todoroki starts to get ass kicked. Until Todoroki gets a flashback. Yeah, he's getting main charactered right now. So he remembers his mother's words and immediately bursts into flame and shoots and basically just demolishes all of Deku's summons. And then just gets to Deku, who's in the frog, and the frog actually starts to run away from Todoroki until Todoroki catches it with a flash fist. Then he punches Deku out of the frog and grabs Deku and throws him outside the ring. And yeah, Deku actually loses here. Yeah, Deku tried his hardest, but Todoroki just his overwhelming strength, his superior combat in close quarters, and being able to do it without his quirk kind of helped. Wow, trauma actually helped Todoroki here. But yeah. Deku just gets up and tells Todoroki that was pretty impressive. With Todoroki saying he's out, which shocks both the audience and Deku. And they realize Todoroki wants to quit because he used his father's side. By the way, no, he's not over his trauma because of that flashback. He's actually more depressed because he was forced to use his fire quirk. So he quit the match and let Deku go ahead of him. Yeah, wasn't expecting that word, dude. So Deku then follows Todoroki and asks him, "What the hell do you mean by that?" There's no way There's no way Todoroki's just gonna quit like that. And so Deku disqualifies himself. Because, no, that's not fair. Todoroki totally won that. And so guess who wins by default? Bakugo wins in a technicality. Because both of them have quit. Because Deku felt he totally lost that. But Todoroki thinks he lost that because he had used his dad's quirk. And then this brings to a conversation. With Todoroki explaining that he doesn't want to use his dad's quirk. And Deku explaining that clearly he knows how to use it better than his dad. And whatever his dad taught him, there's no way it was like that. But Todoroki says that those are his exact moves. But Deku just says he probably used them a lot better than he did. He's a lot cooler, too. 2 quirks instead of 1. And it's basically just them rambling at each other that Todoroki doesn't want to use his stats quirk, with Deku countering him saying, no, it is your quirk and you're using it better than if he ever used yours. And it's way more unique than Endeavor's. But yeah, it's basically just Deku getting annoyed at Todoroki for not using his full quirk. But this makes Todoroki think on his quirk, but yeah. And when the whole podium stuff happens, they don't really know who to choose, but Todoroki just says they can go up together. So Deku just agrees, because he doesn't want to argue on it. So they both stand up there and receive a medal. Yeah. So Tokiyama is third, Deku and Todoroki are second, and Bako is first. Bako is annoyed, but not as furious as he was before, because he's not much of an egotist that he was in the original. But he's annoyed at Deku for disqualifying himself, because they could have had a really cool fight. But Deku says it would have been unfair to Todoroki. And so Bako leaves it in a grump. So we continue after that with Deku remembering that Ida left the tournament and wondering where he went. But he just leaves that to the back of his mind because he's getting some calls from teachers that they want him in their agency. And one that Deku would like to go to is the Dragon Lady. And so he goes there and he learns from her until they get a call in that they need some assistance at whatever the Stain arc takes place in. I forgot. So she grabs Deku and they go flying over there. Actually, Deku rides her over there on her back. So they get over there and Deku jumps off and summons his bird to fly him over there. The reason Deku chose her is because she's a dragon. He was trying to see if he could summon a dragon. Of course he couldn't, so it sucks. So Deku lands and sees all the things, so Deku summons his ox, which just bulldozes through most of them. And Deku just leaves the ox to deal with that while he goes looking for Ida, because he remembered Ida was in this area. And when he looks around a bit more, he can't see him, so he just keeps going until he stumbles upon Ida with Stain, proceeding to cut his arm off. So Ida has his arm fully gone, and Deku gets enraged, so he summons his animals. And the first one he summons out is his snake to coil around Stain, which Stain cuts himself out of really quickly. But before he could cut himself fully out, the dog shows up to combo the heck out of him by slashing him up, basically like an uppercut, like throwing a buttload of attacks. Think like a stand throwing punches, basically that, but they're cuts instead of punches. So slashes the crap out of him, then the dog grabs him by his tail, tossing him towards Deku, which Deku then kicks Stain in the gut, pushing him back. By the way, while he was in the dragon's thing, he wanted to learn some martial arts, which she said she would try, and Deku was not getting it that much. But he got a bit of it, so he's able to hold his own against Stain, slightly. But of course Stain eventually gets a cut on Deku, and when he licks the thing, Deku, before going down, he uses like a lot of his power to send out his ox again, that he felt that the ox just finished up his battle and went back into the portal. So the ox slams through the portal, slamming Stain into a wall, actually breaking him through the wall into a different building. And then we can hear a commotion happening where Stain is getting slammed through walls and the ox is screaming, or I guess screeching. Anyways, an ox screeching. And then Stain comes out with the head of the bull around his arm, dragging it out. And then he snaps its neck, and then its body droops. With Stain being absolutely bruised and really tired, he slowly marginates his way over to Deku to kill him. He puts the sword to the chest and is about to push down when Todoroki shows up and flash fist Stain in the gut. Then he freezes Stain completely into a thing of ice, freezing him in place. He's too tired to really do anything, and so Deku thanks Todoroki by gritting and saying thanks. And Todoroki says it's not a problem. And so eventually, when the blood thing goes out, and when they cuff Stain, they check on Ida, who is fine, who's been holding his wound the whole time, until Todoroki says he can help, and Ida knows where this is going. So he asks Deku for something to bite on. So Deku summons a weapon that he got when he was at the Dragon Lady. He learned how to put stuff into his portals, so he can actually put stuff in there. So he brought out a sword, kind of. And yeah, it's basically the Megumi sword that he used against that Mario mustache-looking guy. And so Ida bites onto it, and then Todoroki uses the burn thing. And then it burns the wound close, and Ida laments the fact he just lost his arm. And so he just sits in that alley while Todoroki and Deku take Stain out of it. And eventually, Endeavor shows up, and the other heroes show up. And then the Nomu shows up, but Deku in this version summons the elephant, and it grabs it and squeezes the life out of that Nomu, popping its head with a gushy pop. Then the elephant let goes the Nomu and then gets desummoned. And Stain was actually fully unconscious that time, because that ice basically shot him into a sleep. So Stain doesn't do anything here. And he goes to prison, no incident. Hello everybody, my name is 60 People, welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel if you're new. And today we're going to continue What If, but first, I'd like to make a little announcement. I'm almost at 100 subscribers, and if we get that goal, I will do a 100 subscriber special. And luckily for you and me, I have a 2-week off vacation for Christmas, weirdly. So you're going to be seeing a lot of videos. So if you subscribe now, you'll be able to see a lot of videos from me. So every day, I mean, like you're going to get one every day. So subscribe, bro, and hit the post notification bells. I like the video. But anyways, me begging you to subscribe out of the way, let's get right into the what if. So we continue our story right after Deku has defeated Stain and saved Ida from Stain. Well, of course, without Ida losing an arm, but yeah. So Todoroki, Ida, and Deku then went to the hospital, and Deku, instead of healing himself with the deer, he decided he'll just wait out the hospital visit. So he sits out that hospital visit, seeing Todoroki blow up on the dog detective, and it's like, whoa. But yeah, Deku then goes home and just waits until the internships are done, because, you know, he kind of can't do it right now with his injured body. So after the internships, the teachers announce that there's going to be a little mystery test that they're going to take. So everyone tries to figure out what it is. Of course, Deku doesn't know, so he's not going to guess, because he doesn't want to feel dumb. Relatable. So after a while, they announce that's going to happen. So Class 1A groups up and meets up with Aizawa, which then Aizawa announces that the test is the teachers versus the students. It's a 2-on-1 battle. Teachers on 1, students on 2. So then Aizawa then calls out names and makes them into groups, with Deku and Bakugo grouping up. And of course, since Bakugo and him are best buddies, they're happy about this. Not in the original timeline where Bakugo was a piece of shit. But anyways, him and Bakugo are ready to fight whoever it is, super confident, until they hear a giant crater appear behind them, look behind them, and they see All Might grinning with weights on him. And then they're a whole lot less excited. So they brushed off, thinking they can just beat him, because they're pretty strong. Then, after they all get set, Deku and Bakugo stance up and are ready to fight All Might. And before any of them can do anything, All Might gut checks Deku, sending him real far away. And so Deku can't use his annoying stuff. But Deku just catches himself with this bird, sending him right back out to All Might, throwing himself at him, and the bird charges up lightning. While Bakugo fights All Might by shooting explosives. Of course, this is not really affecting All Might. He's just punching through it and punching air to just knock off Bakugo's stuff. And when the bird comes in, he just smashes it to pieces. So afterwards, then Deku sends out his dog, who actually starts boxing with All Might, and they actually start clashing blows. Think Nomu versus All Might clashing blows like that. But then after that animation quits, the dog spins and cuts All Might slightly, but only cutting his costume. And then the dog tries to go for another one, but All Might catches the dog's fist and sends it into a building. This, of course, incinerating it. Then Bakugo says he's going to charge up an EMP, and so Deku says he'll confirm it. So he sends out his ox and elephant, and the ox and elephant actually pin All Might, with the ox slamming his legs with the elephant, crushing him. So then Deku tells All Might, Bakugo now, so Bakugo pulls the pin and sends it out. But All Might gets his bearings, smashes the ox's head to the ground, and grabs the elephant and puts it in front of the blast, which Deku just desummons it so it doesn't take the blast. So All Might just grabs onto Goo. And so this blast hits him point blank, and All Might just drops back slightly. But he tanks it because it's All Might. And then he gut checks Bakugo, hitting him with the thing he did in the original, where he hit him so hard Bakugo spewed out spit. So Bakugo gets sent flying into a car, bouncing off it actually, with All Might about to go for Deku. But Deku sends out the snake to wrap around All Might fully. And All Might's kind of restricted and trying to pull his out. And with Deku seeing no other option, he decides he's out of there. So he summons his bird again and just sets the bird to dip. And so the bird grabs Deku and just zooms out. With then All Might knowing what Deku's about to do, he breaks out of his binds, knowing Bakugo is straight down, which yes, Bakugo is actually dead out. So Deku's going and All Might's trying to catch up to him, but the bird keeps weaving All Might and Deku keeps pulling out animals to block him. And eventually Deku's almost there when All Might sends out a Detroit smash, disturbing the air, making the bird collapse. And All Might's about to grab Deku, but Deku, the bell rings and Deku's confused what happened, until he looks where the bird landed, and realized the bird landed right under All Might. And the bird grabbed the cuffs, and it cuffed All Might. And this was from the bird's self-awareness that would have worked. The bird clinged to life, and just not to become goo, just to put the cuffs on. And so the bird goops out, but Deku grabs his thing. So All Might is fully captured. And Bakugo and Deku clear the exam with barely making it. After Bakugo and Deku win, they watch the other exams. They go exactly how they did in the original, except Ida, doesn't pass because his arm kind of threw him off with his speed. He's not used to it yet. But anyways, actually, I don't know if he passed in the original. I remember after. Man, I'm going to say after all, aren't I? Continuing, after the test, everyone is told that they get to still go to the force, but they'll have to do extra assignments. So Deku gets ready for the trip and gets on the bus. They drive over to the forest, and eventually they get out and meet the lady that can collapse rocks. But Deku just summons his bird and catches himself and makes him land where that bus is. And so Aizawa and her just let him come with them because, good on him for being tactical. So Deku gets to go with them on the bus, and it takes him a bit longer because Deku isn't there. So after Deku gets out of the bus, everyone yells at him for leaving them behind. After Deku meets Koda, and Koda hits him in the balls, and same exactly thing that happened in the original. And honestly, not much change. Deku actually just does the same thing he does in the original, where he learns how to fight with the buff Catman. And so the day continues, and Deku finds Koda's missing and goes to bring the curry. And he meets up with Koda, and Koda just vents on Deku on how his parents were left him behind, and he feels abandoned by them. After Deku was talking to Koda, Koda vent. He's about to talk when Muscular shows up, but Deku summons his elephant, which blocks the punch that Muscular is about to throw at Deku, which it actually absorbs it completely, doesn't take any damage, which Deku's shocked by, because usually his elephant is really not that tanky before, because when All Might punched it, just dropped immediately, but when this guy punched it didn't do anything. Little does Deku know he's actually the physically stronger he gets, the physically stronger the animals get. By the way, Deku in this version is a bit scrawny. And he's now getting ripped. So the elephant then starts beating the shite out of Muscular. Not even joking, bro. He grabs the elephant tusk, pushes him into the air, then leaps into the air, crushing him, the elephant crushing Muscular with his weight. Then the elephant grabs Muscular's legs and just starts Hulk smashing him like Hulk did to Loki. And then the Muscular eventually starts turning the tables on the elephant, and the elephant starts losing. But Deku just summons the bird creature that charges up lightning and hits Muscular with it, which actually sends shockwaves through his whole body, making his muscles disturb, because his muscles are electrified, so the muscles start rumbling, and then they explode off him, which make Deku get the chance to desummon the elephant and use his dog to slash the absolute crap out of Muscular, to the point where he's bleeding out of out of his chest. And eventually the dog, losing it a bit, cuts Muscular's throat, grabs it with its teeth, and tears Muscular's head clean off. And Koda gets shocked, like, holy shit. But he thanks Deku anyways, because, he saved his life. Of course, Koda doesn't know that this guy killed his parents, but still, the guy tried to kill him, so he's a hater, still. Oh. Yeah. So after Muscular gets his head torn off and dies, Deku desummons his animals, then summons his bird back, and the bird takes Koda over to the Aizawa, with Deku sliding down the hill to find his classmates. So Deku rolls and then runs into the forest, and Koda gets back there safely, and the bird actually helps out with Aizawa. Fighting Dabi. So Dabi gets actually almost captured, but luckily for him, he just burns out of it. Luckily for him, it's a clone, so he's fine. So then, eventually, Deku desummons itself, which Deku is glad for, because he can feel it. By the way, he never found anyone while that was just happening. He was just running through the forest. He eventually finds... He eventually finds Bakugo and Todoroki fighting off Moonfish, which, as you know, Moonfish gets absolutely obliterated Tokoyami, and so Tokoyami Shima's absolutely obliterates him, and so Deku turns on pulls out his cat and roars. And then Tokoyami's quirk turns off and he actually goes unconscious. So Deku turns it off immediately, picking up Tokoyami. Actually, forgot his name, but the guy with the multiple arms and can change the multiple arms into different things, like mouths and ears. Picks up Tokoyami, like he did to Deku in the original. So when Compress shows up, it's really just to hold everyone at full stamina and nobody, getting distracted by Tokoyami. So Deku actually summons his animals more, and they, beat the shit out of Compress. The Compress luckily gets himself away with the giant boulder, pushing most of Deku's animals back. It doesn't really matter what animal is summoned, he just does the same thing every single time, no matter what animal. But eventually he gets over to Bakugo, grabbing him, and then Compress then sends out another marble, 2 marbles actually, to summon out twice Dabis, which just explode in fire, sending Compress forward with the rock behind him. And so he goes flying, and Deku, Todoroki, and the multiple armed guy chase after him, and Deku gets shot forward by Todoroki, and Deku actually just grapples Compress to the ground. But sucks for him. Spinner, the trans person, sorry, that's the only reason I remember her name, but yeah, her, then jump Deku to push him off Compress. But Deku just pushes him off with the dog. Then he pulls out the elephant to try and grab the marble from him, but Dobby incinerates the elephant, the real Dobby this time. And Deku then, just watches as Baku gets pulled through the portal, while every other villain just walks through it because he's tired. So after Deku goes unconscious from how much he's exerted his body, because remember, he's been pushing out a lot of animals here. So, yeah. Then Deku wakes up in the hospital and immediately sets out to go find his best friend. Yes, Baku is his best friend. Of course he is. So everyone groups up, and yeah, of course, Ida punches Deku again, like he did in the original, but, same thing as the original, he comes with him. Actually, this time he has a robotic arm this time. Okay. So they just get over to the lookout, no disguises this time. And, yeah. They get there and are about to set Baku free. Deku plans on just sending out just as many guys as possible to pin all the things. His best strategy right now is elephant, tiger, win. Because remember, Quirk Eraser, the tiger. Yeah. So when they're about to enact this plan, they hear a knock around, and they look around the corner where All Might's sitting there with other heroes. So they bust down the door, and when they're about to get, Bakugo, Baku starts puking up goo, which Deku is concerned about, so he runs over to Bakugo, actually jumping into the goo, and that also sends him where Bakugo is going, which is outside of the blast radius. So the building explodes with Deku and Bakugo outside of his range. With also, of course, them at the range too. So Bakugo and Deku fend off the League of Villains. And while they're doing that, the plan that happened in the original happens again. So when Baku realizes this, he tells Deku to go. But Deku says he's got this, and so Bakugo sends himself flying. And so Deku then summons 3 animals at a time. The tiger, the wolf, and the elephant. And so the tiger roars, and then the wolf and the elephant just beat the living crap out of all the villains. With the tiger, with the dog losing it again, because the dog is really in for that jugular. And he actually, in this timeline, is the one that tears Compress's arm off. Compress doesn't lose it to Endeavor in Overhaul this time. He loses to Deku's dog. And before any more serious damage happens, Dobby kills the dog. And then Deku just sends out, then takes away the dog again. If wondering how Dobby, took out the dog, he actually used Toga's knife that he took off her person and threw it at. And so Deku just summons the snake to beat the shite out of Dobby. And eventually, all for one, getting annoyed, he sends out an air shock that All Might goes and blocks. Oh yeah, by when this was all happening, All Might versus All for One was happening. With the camera and people looking at Deku, hoping he's safe. So All Might blocks the punch, and it hurts a whole lot. This actually reduces him to a skinny form, doing the whole big reveal that he's skinny. With Deku also being shocked. But Deku, immediately improvises and sends out his deer, desummoning the elephant. And desummoning everything and only summoning the deer. Which then the deer heals All Might back to his buff form. with All Might being back in top condition, and he's ready to fight more. And then Deku summons the elephant to beat the crap out of everyone else. And while the fight happening with All For One, All Might actually starts to lose in this timeline. I'm setting something up. Chill. So eventually All Might's on the back foot, almost dead, when All For One's about to point blank All Might. But Deku jumps in front of it, gets hit directly in the stomach, rearranging his guts, bro. Actually sending a tiny hole through his stomach, hurting a whole lot. And when Deku's coughing out blood, because that hurt a whole lot, that actually ruptured a lot of his ribs and stomach. Then Deku puts his things together, basically hoping something will crawl through that portal to save All Might. And when it's happening, we hear big thumping coming through a portal that's behind Deku. And then we see it burst through the portal, and it's revealed to be Maharaga, who just batters Deku out of the way instantly. Which, of course, that hurt a lot, so Deku is out cold now. With Maharaga then fighting All For One. With Maharaga adapting to every single thing All For One does. Which All For One shoots his air blast to start out, which, of course, Maharaga tanks, because that shit don't mean shit to him. And he punched All For One. And then he sends out his blades to slash up All For One, which he just heals from, and then All For One sends out his biggest blast he got at him, at the Maharaga. But Maharaga, this time, doesn't even get phased by it and just keeps fighting All For One. And eventually All For One tries to steal its quirk, thinking it's a human being. But it doesn't work, which shocks All For One. And then Maharaga then starts to crush All For One into like a cube. So he starts crushing All For One, which is actually working. And for All For One to do anything, Maharaga splats him like into paste. And then he starts, just rubbing it in. And then Maharaga throws the blood to the ground, and then Maharaga just sits there, kind of standing there, waiting for something to happen. When Deku gets up from his wound and looks over to Maharaga, which Maharaga looks over to Deku. Maharaga walks over to Deku, picks up Deku, and makes him stand up. Then Maharaga opens a portal and walks through it. And now Deku has Maharaga straight for his disposal. And yeah, of course, in this timeline, Maharaga is a bit more summons itself than Deku summoning it. So Deku decides he's only going to summon this creature again when he needs it, like really needs it. So then Deku just drops again, because he has a hole through him. And the reason I say that is because I don't want Deku to just spam Maharaga like in the memes of Megumi spamming Maharaga, even though he used him one time. But anyways, we continue our what if after Deku used Maharaga and defeated All For One permanently, killing his original body. Yes, Overhaul is still alive, and he's just in Shigaraki. So in this timeline, Shigaraki gets the quirks faster to the point where It's before the Endeavor arc. Okay, but of course we still have the Class 1A versus Class 1B arc. So Deku walks into the school and ready for the training. So Class 1A versus Class 1B happens. Everything that happens in the original happens here. And yeah. Then we get to Deku. And Deku uses his cancel quirk, his tiger, to roar everyone's quirks away and then send out his wolf. And he runs with the wolf to fight people. So Shinso immediately gets bodied because, he can't use his quirk. The Wolfman is fine because, it's a mutation, not an emitter. But the wolf and Deku take care of him, and the guy with the bubble quirk also gets decked and knocked out. Then that's Deku with 3 characters, and of course they just sweep through the rest. Deku's team wins. Following up on that, Deku talks to Bakugo on how they won pretty easily. No flukes. And Bakugo says pretty true. Oh, by the way, All Might still has One for All. It's not he can't use it. He can still use it now. So he's still a full-time hero. Anyways, after this, Deku and Bakugo are going home when they hear a giant crash near where Deku lives. So him and Bakugo run over there to see, almost to where his mom's house is, like a couple blocks over. The entire city just got disintegrated, and in the middle is Shigaraki with a hand on his face. Just pure black, though. Also, we see all of the League of Villains gear and stuff on the ground too, revealing that Shigaraki took their quirks and disintegrated all of them. Oh, also, Hawks was also in that pile, and so Shigaraki has bird wings, which, shows that Shigaraki is fully lost in this timeline and doesn't can take control. It's just All for One now. So this is a really strong Shigaraki, or All for One, doesn't matter. And since Deku and Bakugo are there, Shigaraki, All for One, I'm gonna just refer to him as All for One now. All for One looks over and cackles and zooms over to them. Until All Might and Endeavor show up to block the punch. The grab. And both All Might and Endeavor jump Shigaraki. Of course, Deku's helping by using his tiger roar thing. Yeah, so all of the heroes are kind of not ready for this thing, so Shigaraki does a lot more damage. All for One does a lot more damage than he does in the original. And when all the heroes show up, he actually just takes out most of them. So, see that dragon lady? Yeah, she gets disintegrated. And when Deku tries to send out any of his monsters, they all just get murdered really quickly. So, All for One's really just killing everyone really quickly. And yes, Endeavor loses his arm again in this timeline, getting it torn off. But when he tries to go for the, incinerate All for One thing, he just black teleports away from it. The black goop, he just teleports away from it. Which then that takes Endeavor out of the fight, because that was all of his energy. And then Rogue shows up to take over Endeavor's space. But of course he's not doing as well. All Might is taken out of battle with a gigantic gut check from Shigaraki, right to where his weak spot is, because All for One knows where it is. And that just completely makes it all One for All disappear. And then when Shigaraki's about to grab One for All from All Might, after gut checking him aggressively, Bakugo runs in there with a howitzer, blowing All for One off, which enrages him, and All Might flies over into Deku, which Deku catches him with the elephant. With Elephant's trunk. Then, yeah. And Bakugo tries to fight off Shigaraki, All for One, but gets his ass kicked severely. And yes, like he does in original, his heart starts beating and he dies. And Deku, seeing clearly he's gonna have to send out everything he got, but he thinks that Maharag is his last resort. So he sends out all of his beasts, which basically takes him out of the fight. But his animals are in the fight. And these animals, realizing that are gonna have him. So the animals know that if they die here, it's over. So the dog and the tiger team up, with the dog protecting the tiger. The elephant and the ox then team up with the ox and the elephant, smacking rocks towards Shigaraki, All for One, but he just smacks them away, of course. And since, he can't use decay, it's harder for him to do this. And then the bird and the snake show up to do their combo. And it actually works this time because no decay. And then, but all of them, every single one of the things are about to get just mauled because we see Shigaraki's body just start dysmorphing, which is supposed to be a symbolism of Shigaraki fighting back. So then a buttload of limbs shoot out of All for One, and they all hit all of the animals. And before all the animals are about to lose, the deer, waiting, heals every single one of the creatures, so they're all back to full HP, and All for One then regains control. And when they see this, they realize that the animals realize that they're going to have to do a drastic measure, and so all of them rush into a portal, making it like a goopy, disgusting mess. And then the creature climbs. Then we see a giant fluffy hand fly out of the thing, slam onto the ground, claw the ground, pull itself out, revealing that creature that Sukuna summoned in the fight against Gojo. And then that creature just uses the roar of the tiger and the lightning of the bird, and the flight of the bird, and the claws of the dog to start hamming All for One's face in. But All for One's, of course, just fighting back. It's basically... Okay. So Shigaraki gut checks the creature, grabbing its beak and then pulling it in and punching it in the face. Of course, the roars still happen, so All for One knows it's trying to cancel out his decay quirk. Then All for One tries to shockwave it with its, his signature. The whole compiling quirks together and then shooting him out. So he shoots it out, and even sends out the bird feathers, like all of them, to enhance the thing. Because, All for One can already fly. So when that attack's getting sent towards them, the bird just dodges it. And then summons a giant thundercloud, and then uses that thundercloud to power itself, and then slam it to All for One, which actually does some severe damage to him, burning all of his body off. And once All For One gets hit by this, he, you know, loses it and then smashes the ground. And this makes a buttload of Nomus pop out of the ground. Remember, this is where the doctor's lab was with all the Nomus. So the Nomus bust out of the ground and go to fight the lady, with the animal taking care of all of them with ease. With her tearing one in half, punching one in half, then lifting a buttload of boulders and smashing a buttload of them. And even becomes like a snake hybrid, like has a snakes replace her legs. And so she uses the snake abilities basically. And then that combines with the I guess just the wolf's claws, and it slices up a load of them and whips a load of them. Then it de-transforms back into its original state and rushes shit, All For One. Then All For One rushes it, and then they start clashing. Basically like Dragon Ball Z clashing. And they're both they're basically breaking the ground below them. Sorry. And then actually looking like they're teleporting around, punching each other, clashing, making tiny and tinier craters. Eventually, All For One gets the upper hand, because of course he was gonna get it eventually, touching the creature, because eventually its vocal cords quit itself. So the tiger ability stopped working. So All For One grabs the animal hybrid and it starts to decay. When Deku starts to chant, with this sacred treasure, I summon Divine General Maharaga. And then Maharaga pops out of the portal, speeding past Deku, not punching him this time, because remember, in this timeline, Maharaga is not a thing that needs to be tamed by beating the crap out of it. Then the Maharaga punches All For One / Shigaraki off. That's what I'm changing it to. And the animal hybrid, I guess that's what I'll call it, his body starts to decay from the chest, but it uses the deer again, because this is a whole new creature, not just the deer. So it's a different animal, so it can use the abilities again. And so Maharaga and the bird thing go to jump Shigaraki, but they don't have the luxury of the Cake-Work. But luckily for Maharaga, he gets stuck by it pretty quickly, and sure, he loses an arm, but he just now is adapted to it, so now he can not get hurt by it anymore. So when All For One tries to touch him, it doesn't work. So Maharaga uses this to his advantage and blocks all the damage from for the animal hybrid. And the animal hybrid uses all of its abilities to pin Shigaraki, so Maharaga can just unleash damage onto him. Because Maharaga is clearly stronger than her, and she can tell. Yes, the animal hybrid is she. And so basically, Maharaga and the bird lady beat the shit out of Shigaraki All For One. And he's beaten them off as hard as he can, when he eventually whistles, and then that shows Gigantomachia bursting out of the ground, smashing towards them, which the Maharaga then just decides he'll take it out. So Maharaga rushes it, Gigantomachia, and then the All For One Shigaraki tries to touch the bird lady, the bird hybrid, and is about to kill it, when Gigantomachia runs straight past Maharaga and smacks All For One right onto the ground. And then we see Gigantomachia crying and yelling at All For One, how dare he leave her. Yes, Gigantomachia is a girl. That's what I think. I think in the show or in the manga, they referred to her as she referred to herself as a girl. It doesn't matter. So that just seals Shigaraki's fate, and Gigantomachia holds down All For One, but he decays her really quickly, and she dies. But that was enough time for Maharaga to, you know, I don't know, also pin Shigaraki, All For One. He basically just puts his whole body weight into it, and since Shigaraki can't, All For One, Shigaraki, it doesn't matter, can't decay him, he just holds him down like a drop. But of course, All For One sends out all of his quirks, like all of them. Every single quirk he's thrown. But of course, Maharaga, being Maharaga, just tanks all of them and adapts. Except for one. Then All For One placing his hand right onto Maharaga, and then it just sends a whole shockwave through Maharaga, incinerating Maharaga's insides, killing Maharaga. And Maharaga starting to turn to goop when we look into the sky, seeing a thundercloud show a giant beast slashing around it. And yeah, it's the hybrid. Then it shoots straight down like a lightning bolt, hitting All For One so hard to the point where All For One's body just starts disintegrating into dust. Like atomized, basically, type lightning strike. And we see Maharaga and the bird lady slowly turning to goop, because that took all of their energy. Oh, and Maharaga died, so. But and we then look over to Deku, who is unconscious, has been unconscious this whole time, waking up finally after the animals have been absorbed into him. He looks around, not seeing All For One or Shigaraki, as far as he knows, and he's relieved and just goes back to sleep. And then we see, like, in a credit scene where Bakugo funeral happens. Yes, in this timeline, Bakugo stays dead, and this does take a toll on Deku, and he decides he's become the #1 hero. And of course, we see a time skip of him becoming the #1 hero. So Deku, fulfilling his self-prophecy that he would become the #1 hero just for Bakugo. And I guess that's where I'll end it. Hope you like the extended fight of Shigaraki, and I mean, honestly, I'm sorry that I kept misnaming them. I kept saying Shigaraki All For One, Shigaraki All For One, like slashed together. It basically doesn't matter considering they're the same. Basically, just think of them as fused, I guess. But that's enough of me being illiterate. Let's wrap it up. Hope you liked the video. Like, subscribe, leave a comment on how you thought this what if came out, and see y'all later. Have a good day or good night. See ya.